we are sanding the kitchen floors. We are thinking about doing a checkerboard pattern for this 1950s house. It feels right. And that the idea is that it'll help transition the old floors to the new floors.
Getting started on day 2 with the staining of the checkerboard pattern. We're using the varathane wood stain, golden oak, to create this tiled look. The technique we're doing is taping everything down. We're going to go through a lot of tape. Here's that first row we went through. These are 3 boards wide, this checkerboard pattern, so taping these lines is actually not too difficult, and just following the existing edge and then measuring that same width for the square pattern.
Staining another row of taped off squares. I'm putting the tray really close to where I'm working because I have a tendency to drip. And we set up this tray for the spoon, lid, and paper towels so we can move them as we go.
Alright, we've got a lot of the squares installed, and we kind of perfected the technique as we were going. And what we found was the most effective was actually just taping and doing the lightest coat. These earlier versions, I'm actually sanding some off now because there's a lot of sections that were bleeding through, and this is because we were putting down too much stain. These earlier ones too, to help, I was cutting an edge here, just kind of scoring the wood in an attempt to kind of stop some of the bleeding. But even with that, it wasn't that effective. So what I found was actually just doing a very light coat would get these really crisp squares. And here's some. I'm gonna come through and sand these sections too where the tape, there's a little spillover from some of the tape. And that's throughout here. And then we're gonna use these lines, or these 4 squares, for instance, to put in that last square here and create that checkered look. Started doing some in the doorway, and this is where we began, and again you can see some of this bleeding here. I'll try and clean up what I can. Alright, got this area retaped. We're starting to do the checkerboard pattern here. This application technique we're doing, this one here is fresh, and you can see there's hardly any stain on this brush, and it was just used on that. So it's really just a really light application, but it doesn't take much. And I'll show you. This one is 2 minutes down. Crisp lines. Alright, I have all the squares marked off. All the blue ones here are the ones we'll be staining tonight. There are a few, like for instance this one we're going to restain. It had a bad corner. Mostly these align pretty well. There are a few problem areas, but I guess the second round of taping was a lot easier than that first one where we were measuring. Here it's more of connect the dots, follow the wood grain where the pieces mark up. Alright, here we are. Have all the tape off. Everything's complete. If I do zoom in, you can see we've got some pretty crisp lines. There's quite a bit of contrast with the natural, kind of more of a red oak and then the golden oak stain. Where I'm about to add the water-based poly on top of here. That's what's on the rest of the house. You can kind of see that we sanded this. This already has the water-based poly on it. I'm hoping that transition with this poly will unify it a little bit better. Alright, first coat of poly is on. You can see it's darkened up some. You can definitely see a little bit more of the wood grain. It's more of that pinkish color, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. We're going to do at least 2 more coats, then hopefully start moving appliances back in 24 hours after that.